You don't realize how much a man can shrink until you've starved for 3 years. I was 6'2" when they captured me. Weighed 190, all muscle from working construction before I enlisted. When they released me in August 1953, I was down to 115. My wedding ring fell off my finger. My uniform hung on me like a scarecrow. I didn't recognize the face in the mirror. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing I'd forgotten how to be human. Robert Hayes, Staff Sergeant, 2nd Infantry Division, United States Army. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Worked the steel mills before the war. Good money, honest work. Met my wife Alice at a church social in 1948. Married her 3 months later. We had a daughter in 1949. Named her Dorothy. She was 10 months old when I shipped out to Korea. I never got to see her first steps, never heard her first words. By the time I came home, she was 4 years old and called me the man in the picture. I arrived in Korea in August 1950. Just another replacement in a war nobody expected to last long. We pushed north, got close to the Chinese border. Thought we'd won. Thought we'd be home by Christmas. Then the Chinese came. Hundreds of thousands of them. Hit us in late November, right when winter set in. We retreated, fought, died, froze. I got captured on December 1st, 1950, near the Chongchon River. Our company was cut off, surrounded. We ran out of ammunition, ran out of options. The Chinese gave us a choice, surrender or die. 37 of us surrendered. I was the ranking non-commissioned officer, so I made the call. Told the boys to drop their weapons, told them we'd survive this, told them we'd see home again. I was wrong. Only 8 of us made it home. The rest died in the camps. I spent 2 years, 8 months, and 17 days in Chinese POW camps. I counted every single day. Had to. Counting meant I was still alive, still sane, still me. But I was wrong about that, too. They marched us north for 6 days, through snow and ice, no food, no rest. If you fell, they shot you. Private Miller from Ohio fell on the 2nd day, just collapsed in the snow. A Chinese guard put a pistol to his head and pulled the trigger, left him there. We kept marching. You learn fast in that situation. You learn to keep moving no matter how tired you are, no matter how hungry, no matter how cold. You just keep moving. We reached the camp on December 7th. They called it Camp 5 near the town of Pyeongtaong, right on the Yalu River. The Chinese border was maybe a mile away. The camp was just wooden barracks. No heat, no insulation. Holes in the walls where the wind came through. We slept on bare floors, packed together for warmth. Sometimes you'd wake up next to a man who'd died during the night, frozen solid. The food was the worst. They fed us twice a day, sorghum and millet mostly, maybe a few ounces per meal. Sometimes they'd throw in some soybeans. Never meat, never enough. Within 2 weeks, I could feel myself wasting away, my body eating itself, muscle turning to energy. Fat, what little I had, disappearing. Bones starting to show through skin. The dysentery started in January. Nearly everyone got it. No medicine, no clean water, just men shitting themselves to death in those freezing barracks. We lost 12 men in January alone, just from dysentery and starvation. Corporal Jimmy Patterson, kid from Tennessee, 21 years old. He died in my arms on January 18th. Weighed maybe 80 pounds by then. Looked like a skeleton with skin stretched over it. He kept asking me when we were going home. Soon, Jimmy. Real soon. Promise? I promise. He died believing me. I don't know if that makes me a liar or kind. The Chinese guards didn't care. They'd come through the barracks every morning, drag out the bodies, throw them in a ditch outside camp. No ceremony. No respect, just disposal. We started calling it the Death House. That's what the camp was. Not a prison, not a POW camp. A place where they put us to die slowly. But dying slowly takes time. And during that time, they wanted something from us. They wanted us to confess, to denounce America, to admit we were war criminals, to sign statements saying we'd used biological weapons, to collaborate. They called it re-education. We called it something else. The interrogation started in February. They'd pull men out randomly, take them to a separate building, keep them there for hours, days, weeks. When they came back, if they came back, they weren't the same. The Chinese were clever about it. They didn't just torture us. That would have been simpler, cleaner. They broke us down piece by piece, made us complicit in our own destruction. They'd separate the officers from the enlisted, put us in different barracks, told us the officers had already confessed, already signed statements, told us we were being stubborn for no reason. They'd offer rewards, extra food for cooperation, cigarettes, a blanket, small things, meaningless things. But when you're starving, when you're freezing, those small things become everything. Some men broke, signed whatever the Chinese wanted, made false confessions, agreed to write letters denouncing the war. I don't judge them, can't judge them. You don't know what you'll do until you're that hungry. They took me for my first interrogation in March 1951. I'd been in camp for 3 months, weighed maybe 140 by then, weak, always cold, always hungry. The interrogator was a Chinese officer, spoke perfect English, said he'd studied at Berkeley before the war. He was polite, offered me tea, cigarettes, asked me about my family. You have a daughter, yes? Dorothy. My blood went cold. How do you know that? We know many things, Sergeant Hayes. We know about Alice, your wife. We know she works at the department store. We know where your parents live. We know everything. He was lying, had to be lying, but the way he said it, so confident, so certain. What do you want? Just a signature, a simple statement. You used biological weapons against Chinese civilians. You sign this, you get better food, better treatment. Maybe you see your Dorothy again. I never used biological weapons. None of us did. Of course you did. Everyone knows this. You just need to admit it. No. He smiled, not angry, almost sad. We'll talk again, Sergeant. When you're ready. They put me in a cell, 6 feet by 6 feet. No window, no light. Just darkness and cold. They called it the meditation room. They kept me there for 10 days. No food, just water every other day. The guards would open the door once a day and ask, "Are you ready to confess?" No. The door would close. The darkness would return. By the 8th day, I was hallucinating. Seeing my daughter, hearing Alice's voice. I'd talk to them, have whole conversations. They seemed so real. On the 10th day, I signed. Signed whatever they wanted. Put my name on a confession I knew was false. Said I'd used biological weapons. Said America was the aggressor. Said whatever lies they needed me to say. They gave me a bowl of rice, real rice, the first decent food I'd had in 3 months. I ate it and hated myself. Hated that a bowl of rice was all it took. Hated that I'd broken. Hated that I'd given them what they wanted. But mostly, I hated that it didn't matter. The confession was meaningless. The rice was gone in minutes, and I was still a prisoner, still dying slowly, just dying with less integrity than before. The months blurred together. Spring, summer, fall, winter again, another spring. Time stopped having meaning. There was only hunger, cold, sickness, death. They moved us to different camps. Camp 1, Camp 3. back to Camp 5. Always the same conditions, always the same slow starvation. The Chinese called it lenient treatment, said we were being treated well according to international law. If this was lenient, I didn't want to see harsh. Men died constantly. Dysentery, pneumonia, beriberi, pellagra, diseases I'd never heard of before. Diseases that only happen when you're starving to death. Your body just shuts down, piece by piece. Private Kowalski died in May 1951, Sergeant Williams in July. Lieutenant Morrison, they'd kept him separate from us, died in September. We heard about it through the prison grapevine. The Chinese had worked him over particularly hard because he was an officer, refused to break, died rather than confess. I thought about that sometimes, about dying with integrity versus living with shame. Wondered which one was braver. Still don't know. They made us do labor, hauling supplies, building roads, working in fields, always hungry, always weak, always on the edge of collapse. If you collapsed, they'd let you rest for a day. Then back to work. If you collapsed again, you just died. We learned to help each other, share food, share warmth. The men who survived were the ones who formed bonds, who looked out for each other. The loners died fast. I became close with 3 guys, Corporal Eddie Sanchez from New Mexico, Private First Class Robert Chen from San Francisco, Private Marcus Johnson from Alabama. We bunked together, shared everything, kept each other alive through pure stubbornness. When we get home, Sanchez would say, I'm going to eat for a week straight. Just eat and eat until I can't move. If we get home, Chen would say. When, I'd correct. When we get home. We had to believe that. Had to believe we'd survive. Because if we didn't believe it, we'd just lie down and die. The Chinese tried to turn us against each other, offered rewards for informing on other prisoners, extra food for reporting escape plans, better treatment for identifying the reactionaries, the men who refused to cooperate. Some prisoners took the deal, became collaborators. We called them progressives. The Chinese called them peace fighters. Whatever you called them, they betrayed their fellow Americans for a few extra ounces of rice. I understood it, hated it, but understood it. Hunger makes animals of us all. The armistice talks started in 1951. Dragged on for 2 years. We'd hear rumors. Peace is coming. Exchange is happening. Just hold on a little longer. We held on, died, held on some more. By 1953, our original group of 37 had been whittled down to 8. 8 survivors out of 37. The rest were buried in shallow graves around the Yalu River. July 27th, 1953. The armistice was signed. The war was over. They told us we'd be going home, prisoner exchange, freedom, everything we'd dreamed about for 3 years. But first, there was a choice. The Chinese gathered us all together, thousands of prisoners of war, American, British, Turkish, all of us, and they made an announcement. You can go home to your countries, or you can stay here, stay in China, start new lives. No one will force you. This is your choice. Most of us laughed. Who would choose to stay? Who would choose to remain in the country that had starved us, broken us, tried to brainwash us? But some men raised their hands. 21 Americans chose to stay. 21 men who'd been prisoners for 3 years decided they'd rather live in communist China than go home to America. I watched them stand up, watched them walk to the other side of the compound. Some were men I knew, men I'd suffered with, men I thought I understood. Why? I asked one of them, Corporal Davis from Virginia. We'd been in the same barracks for 6 months. Because I can't go back, he said. Can't face what I did, what I said, what I signed. At least here, they don't know what I was before. I understood. God help me, I understood. Because part of me wanted to stay, too. Wanted to disappear. Wanted to become someone new instead of going home as this broken, hollow thing. But I thought about Dorothy, about Alice, about the life I'd left behind. So I got on the truck, let them drive me to Panmunjom, let them process me through Freedom Village, let them put me on a ship to America. The voyage home took 2 weeks. They fed us, real food, meat, vegetables, as much as we could eat, but our stomachs had shrunk. Most of us could only manage a few bites before we felt sick. They gave us new uniforms. We looked like soldiers again. But we didn't feel like soldiers. Felt like ghosts wearing costumes. The Army psychiatrists interviewed us during the voyage, asked about our treatment, about the interrogations, about what we'd signed. Did you collaborate with the enemy? I signed a confession, false confession, under duress. Why did you sign? Because I was starving. Because they kept me in darkness for 10 days. Because I'm human, and humans break. The psychiatrist made notes, didn't judge, didn't condemn, just wrote it down. You'll need time to readjust, he said. Time to heal. It's normal to have difficulty reconnecting with civilian life. Normal. Like any of this was normal. Like coming back from the dead was just an adjustment period. We landed in San Francisco on August 25th, 1953. Bands playing, crowds cheering, reporters everywhere. Everyone wanted to talk to the returning POWs. Wanted to hear our stories. Wanted to know what it was like. I smiled for the cameras. Said I was glad to be home. Said the right things. But I was lying. Had been lying so long I didn't know how to stop. I wasn't glad. I was terrified. Because prison camp, as horrible as it was, made sense. I understood the rules there. Understood what was expected. But this? Coming home, I had no idea how to do this. Alice was waiting at the airport in Pittsburgh. I almost didn't recognize her. 3 years had changed her, too. Made her older, harder. She'd raised Dorothy alone, worked full time, waited for news that might never come. She ran to me, hugged me, cried. I stood there feeling nothing, just numb. My arms around her felt mechanical, like I was playing the role of husband without remembering how. Dorothy hid behind her mother, this 4-year-old stranger who looked at me with suspicion. Fear, almost. Dorothy, honey, this is Daddy. Remember, like in the pictures? Dorothy didn't remember. Why would she? I was just a stranger, a thin, hollow-eyed stranger who claimed to be her father. We drove home. Alice talked the whole way, catching me up on 3 years of life, her job, Dorothy's preschool, her parents, the house, normal things, everyday things. I couldn't focus. Kept looking out the window, waiting for guards, waiting for the interrogation, waiting for everything to be taken away again. Robert, you okay? Yeah, sorry, just tired. But I wasn't tired, I was gone. Part of me was still in that camp, would always be in that camp. The first night home, I couldn't sleep in the bed. Too soft, too comfortable. I slept on the floor. Alice found me there in the morning. Why are you on the floor? The bed's too soft. Can't explain it. I'll get you a firmer mattress. That won't help. How could I explain? The floor felt safe, familiar. The bed felt wrong, foreign, like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't anymore. I tried to go back to work at the steel mill. Lasted 3 days. The noise, the furnaces, the machinery, the shouting, it was too much. Reminded me of artillery, of screaming, of death. I had a panic attack on the factory floor. Just froze. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. They sent me home. The nightmares started a week after I got back, every night, sometimes multiple times a night. I'd wake up screaming, sweating. Alice couldn't calm me down. Dorothy was terrified of me. "You need help," Alice said finally. "Professional help." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You sleep on the floor. You won't work. You barely eat. You scream in your sleep. You're not fine." She was right. I wasn't fine, wasn't anywhere close to fine. The VA sent me to a psychiatrist. He said I had gross stress reaction. That's what they called it then, not PTSD. That term didn't exist yet, just stress. Like what I was experiencing was the same as being stressed about a deadline or a bill. "You need to talk about what happened," he said. "Process the trauma." But how could I talk about it? How could I explain the darkness of that cell, the taste of millet and sorghum, the weight of signing that false confession, the faces of 29 men who died? How could I explain that I felt guilty for surviving? That I wondered every day why I made it when better men didn't? That I'd collaborated, signed lies, done things I was ashamed of? I couldn't, so I didn't. Just sat in his office for an hour once a week and said I was getting better. Alice left me in 1956. Took Dorothy to live with her parents, filed for divorce. "I waited 3 years for you to come home," she said. "But you never came home, did you? The man I married died in Korea. You're just someone else." She was right. I was someone else. Someone who'd forgotten how to be human, how to love, how to live. I remarried in 1962. Sarah, good woman, patient. She'd never known the old me, so she didn't mourn his loss. She just took me as I was, damaged, broken, barely functional. We had a decent life, no kids. She knew I couldn't handle that, couldn't risk creating something I'd failed to protect. I worked odd jobs, nothing permanent, nothing that required too much. Janitor, night watchman, anything where I could be alone. The nightmares never stopped. 50 years later, I still have them. Still wake up in that camp. Still feel the hunger, the cold, the shame. Dorothy reached out in 1975. She was 26 by then, married, had a kid of her own, wanted to reconnect with her father. We tried, had lunch a few times, talked carefully, politely, like strangers, which is what we were. "Do you remember anything about me?" she asked once, "from before you left? I remember holding you when you were a baby. Remember thinking you were the most perfect thing I'd ever seen. Remember promising I'd come home to you. But you didn't come home." "Not really." "No," I said. "I didn't." She cried. I couldn't. The part of me that could cry had died somewhere in China. I'm 83 years old now. The war ended 62 years ago. I've been free longer than I was a prisoner, but I don't feel free. I still count days, still measure time in meals, still hoard food. My pantry is full of canned goods I'll never eat. Still sleep on the floor sometimes when the bed feels too comfortable. Still hate myself for signing that confession, for breaking, for surviving when others didn't. The Army cleared me, said I'd acted appropriately under duress, said no charges would be filed against prisoners of war who'd been coerced into collaboration. But they didn't clear me with myself. Can't clear yourself when you know what you did, when you remember how easily you broke. People thank me for my service. Tell me I'm a hero. I smile and nod because that's easier than explaining. I'm not a hero. Heroes don't break. Heroes don't sign false confessions for a bowl of rice. Heroes don't collaborate. I'm just a survivor, and surviving isn't the same as winning. The 8 of us who made it home from that original 37 We tried to stay in touch. Had a reunion in 1960. Most of us were doing badly. Divorced, unemployed, drinking, barely holding on. Sanchez killed himself in 1963. Johnson disappeared in the 70s. Chen made it work somehow, became a teacher, had a family. He's the only one who seemed to rebuild. The rest of us just existed, haunted the places where we used to be alive. I'm still in that camp, still hungry, still cold, still waiting for the door to open, still waiting for the interrogation, still waiting to break. They released me in August 1953, gave me my freedom. But freedom isn't something you can give someone. It's something you have to feel. And I've never felt free, not once in 62 years. I'm still a prisoner. The walls are just invisible now. The guards are just memories. The confession I signed is just shame I carry. But I'm still there, still counting days, still trying to survive, still waiting to come home, still waiting to remember how to be human again. The war ended. The camps closed. The gates opened. But I never left, never could, never will. Some prisons you carry with you forever. Some captivity you never escape.